Here we go. All right, so I'm recording. You're okay with that, right?
Sounds good.
This will just be your audio on WHJB in Greensburg. It'll air this Sunday. Okay, I'm going to start with stopwatch. Welcome to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB. I'm your host, Jennifer Mealy. Happy to be here today with Myers. He's the artistic director for the Westmoreland Symphony Orchestra, quite a celebrity in our area, and I'm thrilled to have him on the show right now to talk about Home for the Holidays. That's a concert coming up on Saturday, December 18th at 7:30 at the Palace Theater. So we'll get to that in just a minute, but first I want to welcome you.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's great to be with you.
So I think for those of people in Greensburg and Western Pennsylvania, probably many of them have seen your face in articles and billboards and newspapers, but they probably don't know all about your background. So would you mind talking about where you grew up, your education, your work experience, and then we'll get into your connections to Greensburg.
Sure. Well, I grew up in Northeast Ohio. I was actually born in Canton, Ohio, but grew up in Brunswick, which is in Medina County, just the county south of Cuyahoga County, the one that houses Cleveland and some other big cities around. I was involved in music pretty early. My mother is a vocal music teacher in the public schools. So she started us all off on piano in kindergarten. So I actually, before that, I even have pictures of myself just in diapers, standing next to the piano, singing along and plunking along on the piano. Music was always a regular part of our lives. Mom would, of course, play all the great songs, particularly in the season of particular holidays. So that was always fun to learn all the Halloween songs and the Christmas songs that she would teach her own students. And of course, we absorbed all of those. And it was such an active musical family. We loved it. And so I took piano lessons from kindergarten. And then these were the glory days in public schools when you could actually take a stringed instrument in the school. And I had a wonderful string teacher at my school who marched us all down when we were in third grade. I remember this very distinctly. We all walked down as a class, and in this room, spread out on all these tables, were these beautiful stringed instruments, cellos, violas, violins with their bows. We could pick them up, we could pluck them, we could draw a bow across them. It was fabulous. We loved it. I loved it. And of course, now I understand why she did it. It's to get you hooked. It's to get you interested in playing a stringed instrument. And that afternoon, I went home and I said, Mom, I want to take the violin. So she was very happy to rent me an instrument and get me started on it. And it was thrilling. So from third grade, I was an active participant in the public school music program, the ensembles and the individual training that you can get right off the bat. And then right around fifth grade, I believe, or sixth grade, my mother understood that she would need to direct and focus me a little bit more and sign me up for private lessons with a private teacher. So that's usually how it happened, at least in my era, is that you get that first initial experience with an orchestral instrument and performing in your school. And then if you show some promise and you show some interest, then the idea is that you get focused and you find a private teacher who can really help you hone your skills. So that's what happened with me. I got interested in music very early. I was also singing a ton, singing in choruses, performing choruses, church choirs, you name it. So music was always a fun thing for me. It wasn't necessarily anything I ever considered for a vocation. But all the seeds were planted, right? You know, I was so interested in performing. And then fast forward to high school, I was starting to write music. And, you know, all those dreaded school projects, you know, when you had to get together with 5 or 6 other schoolmates and put together a group project, I just said, why don't I write a little musical or a little operetta? And so I chose all my friends who were also musically inclined. And, you know, of course, all the other kids in the class rolled their eyes and said, oh, no, not again, not another musical. But it was great. Of course, all the teachers loved them. And so I remember writing a musical to The Wife of Bath's Tale of Chaucer. And I also remember writing one to Dracula, Bram Stoker's Dracula. And we staged it, we costumed it, we rehearsed it. We had, you know, oh man, if I ever had a video of those early productions, I'd be deeply embarrassed by them all.
I doubt it. I'm sure they were.
But, you know, and all of that was also right at the infancy of the emergence of MIDI technology, musical instrument digital interfaces. So, you know, those early computers being able to talk to electronic keyboards. So you could actually pre-program a lot of the music and then press the space bar and get it launched, get it started. And then we could perform on top of that. So that we wouldn't have to perform the instruments. We wouldn't have to provide the orchestra in addition to play all the roles and sing all the roles. So that's just a little brief background of my musical life. And I played in the high school orchestra. We had actually a thriving orchestral program. And this was at a Franciscan school in Parma, Ohio. It was called Padua Franciscan High School. And to this
Yes.
day, it still has one of the top instrumental programs in all of Northeast Ohio. And it was largely because the administration believed in it. They got behind it. They realized that that was a good way to distinguish themselves from the other schools in the area, like St. Ignatius, which was the Jesuit school, and St. Edward's, and some of the other top programs. They identified themselves more with sports. But Padua, of course, had a thriving sports program, but also a really wonderful performing arts portion of what they did. So that really set me up for eventually, when I decided to make music my life, to make it my vocation. I had all the skills and I had all the experience and I had all the training that was necessary to be able to make that decision. Because otherwise, if you're starting from scratch by the time you're in college, it's too late. It really is too
Absolutely.
late.
Absolutely. So right out of high school, then you know that this is your calling and what you're going to do. So what happens next?
Well, I actually didn't know. I matriculated at Denison University as a government major.
Mm.
And my advisor said, well, you had better at least sign up for a minor in music. And I said, why? And he said, well, then you'll get all these private lessons covered in your career. You wouldn't have to pay any extra fees. And I said, well, that actually makes a lot of sense. So I decided to declare a minor in music. And then very soon thereafter, I was writing more music and getting involved in the performing ensembles at Denison, and just fell in love with it and thought, what do I need to do to make this my life? And I actually had a chance to write a piece for the college choir and conduct it. And that was the moment. That was the turning point at which I knew I have to figure out how to pursue this as a career. So that's, I was lucky to have that light bulb moment. Had I gone to a different institution or been in a different situation, maybe I wouldn't have been set up to make that choice. And so I was very lucky that I was in a small liberal arts college that, I think there were 4 music majors in my year, but we had the run of the place, right? We had all this access to the professors and the performing ensembles. And I really credit that experience and that freedom to make a decision rather late. Some of my colleagues in the conducting profession, they go to an orchestra concert when they're 6 or 7, and they know right at that moment that's what they want to do with the rest of their life. And that wasn't my experience, but certainly. And the other thing you have to realize about a conductor is that you really don't get experience doing what you do until you're standing in front of an ensemble. I mean, you can stand in front of a mirror and practice and pretend you're conducting to a record or a CD or something, but it's of virtually no use, because the real important training is, what does my gesture do to elicit a specific response from other performers? And unless you have that experience and that fear, frankly, of, is what I'm doing going to make this work? Unless you have that opportunity and that experience, you're not going to grow. And so if you think about it, as a collegiate conductor, you're an infant vis-a-vis your other colleagues who have been studying their instruments and singing and getting training on their specific instrument since they were 5 or 6. So it takes a while for conductors to catch up to their colleagues, even though they're of the same age and same musical experience level. Just the art and the craft of learning how to lead an ensemble is something that takes years to absorb, and I'm still figuring it out.
No, I don't think so. I've been to many of them and they're excellent. And so out of Denison, that's in Ohio, I would imagine. So out of Denison, what's the first step into the business?
So in the conducting field, it's finding a really good graduate program. And really good graduate programs are few and far between, because they normally are associated with very high-powered music programs. So I was lucky that in Ohio, the University of Cincinnati College Conservatory of Music was a huge music program with a lot of talented students and a very fine graduate program in conducting. And I applied and gained entrance to that. And that's really how I got my feet wet in terms of having a regular exposure to and an opportunity to get what we call podium time. Now, all young conductors are anxious for and are starving for podium time, which means time in front of other musicians to actually practice the craft of conducting. And so you make your mistakes in front of those students, you make your first triumphs in front of those students, you set up chairs and stands and risers, and you learn how to sell tickets, you learn how to promote, you go to the copy shop and press your own posters. I mean, they teach you the craft of the art of promotion and the art of what it takes to put on a concert. And of course, that all pays off later when you're in the professional realm and working with professionals who are trained to do the same thing.
And then, so you finished the graduate degree and now you're in the job market.
That's right. So it's tough for a young conductor to get any opportunity. One is to make your own, to find some other like-minded musicians who are willing to play for you, and then you can create your own little orchestra, your own little ensemble or chorus. Another one is to be aligned with a larger symphony. Most larger symphonies in the US hire what they call associate or apprentice or assistant conductors. And that's the route I went. I first apprenticed with and then was assistant of the Knoxville Symphony in Knoxville, Tennessee, which is a
Okay.
mid-market orchestra. And then I won my job with the Pittsburgh Symphony 2 years into that first experience. And that's really kind of what launched my career. I spent 6 seasons with the Pittsburgh Symphony. I was also music director of the Pittsburgh Youth Symphony Orchestra. And I watched that orchestra work every week, day in and day out. The greatest conductors and the greatest soloists on the planet are coming through Pittsburgh on a regular basis. And it's a great training ground. It's rather medieval, though, if you think about it, because you're learning by watching.
Mhm.
And in this role, some other assistant conductors that I know actually never really got to stand in front of that orchestra or stand in front of the orchestra that they were hired to assist. But in Pittsburgh, it's a little bit different. You actually do have a lot to do. There's plenty of community concerts, youth concerts, pops concerts, symphonic concerts that are available for an assistant to cut his or her teeth on the art. And that was great to work with artists of that world-class caliber who can really play anything. I mean, they've played Brahms' Fourth Symphony, believe me, way many more times than you will have ever pretended to have conducted Brahms' Fourth Symphony when you actually get up and get a chance to conduct them. So it's a humbling experience, but it's a great learning opportunity.
But now, today, currently, you hold multiple positions.
That's right. It's not unusual for conductors to hold multiple posts. So I'm the music director of the Erie Philharmonic in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm also the artistic director, of course, of the Westmoreland Symphony. I also am director of orchestral activities at Duquesne University, which means that I conduct both the Duquesne Symphony and the Duquesne Chamber Orchestra. So that's kind of a day job, if you will. Those rehearsals are in the afternoons. And then I also have a wonderful chamber orchestra in Ohio called the Blue Water Chamber Orchestra, based in Cleveland. And then I have a summer gig, as it were, too. That's called the Lakeside Symphony Orchestra. They meet for 3 weeks in the summer and mount 3 weeks worth of orchestral concerts in a wonderful setting right there on the shores of Lake Erie in this beautiful historic space. And those musicians come from all over the United States to play. And so it's a busy life. It's a wonderful life. It's a varied life, but I'm learning more and more as I get into this that I need to double up on repertoire. So if there's a piece that I can do in more than one orchestra in one season, it makes a lot of sense, because otherwise you're going crazy trying to stay on top of the barrage of music that's coming across the stage.
Oh my goodness, you are so busy. And I thought of you last year where I got a magazine from the Diocese of Erie in the mail, and there you were on the cover, it was all you, the entire cover. And I thought that was great. And then I think I clicked on an ad for the Westmoreland Symphony, and there you were again. And I thought, wow, he's everywhere. He's really out there. And I look forward to talking to you more after the break. But before we go to break, I know we have Endicott Reindl is on today. He's the executive director of the Westmoreland Symphony Orchestra. And before we go to break, was hoping that you could plug and give some details to the audience about Home for the Holidays, Andy. Oh, we're going to try getting his audio up there. See if we can.
Jen, we are always happy when we have a working mic, but we're happy to welcome anyone home for the holidays, which is coming up on December the 18th at 7:30 at the Palace Theater, downtown Greensburg. Tickets, of course, are always available at our website at www.westmorelandsymphony.org.
Wonderful. You're listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB. I'm talking to the leadership team of the Westmoreland Symphony Orchestra. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB. I'm your host, Jennifer Mealy, talking today to Daniel Myers, the artistic director for the Westmoreland Symphony Orchestra, and the Executive Director, Endicott Reindl. Thank you both for being on today. Daniel has such an amazing history. It's so fun to listen to all of his experiences, and you think about that parental influence and where it all started, and now how you bring joy to so many people. I'm sure a lot of people are interested to hear more about Home for the Holidays. I'm going to ask Andy to once again go ahead and plug that for people who might be interested in attending.
Surely, yeah. We're happy to welcome folks home again for the holidays. It's coming up. This is not this Saturday, Saturday the 18th, at 7:30 at the Palace Theater. You know, and it always features all of the great holiday classics that you've come to know and love, and maybe some unexpected tunes that you're like, wow, I didn't know they could do that, and it's exciting. And we're always so happy to have the All-Star Choir join us, comprised of different students from all over the area. This year under the direction of David Emanuelson from Hempfield Area High School, and just a fantastic concert. And it's really the one concert that you can say, I've kicked off my holidays the right way.
That sounds fantastic. Daniel, why don't you fill in some more information? What are you excited about, and what should people be excited about?
Well, it's one of those things that I'm just very happy to not have to reinvent the wheel every year.
Because it's Christmas songs, right?
Exactly. That's the great thing about programming for a holiday program and for Christmas time, is that there are certain songs that people expect to hear, that they love to hear, that will spark a particular memory or a particular joy from their own childhood or growing up and having their great traditions that they build with their families. So that's really my job, is to try to get people, you have to think about this. The 18th, it's very close to Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. We're well into the season. People are going crazy, running from this store to the next, or spending all their time online trying to buy those last presents for everybody. For me, it's usually like, oh, I forgot to get something for somebody. And, you have to scramble to make that happen before the day. And this is an idea of where you could just shut off your phone. You can sit very quietly and calmly in the beautiful Palace Theater, this historic space that's got a really lovely acoustic, and just watch and listen and just let the glow of this music kind of rush over you. And like Andy said, the All-Star Choir is always fun for me because this is a new cast every year, right?
Sure.
These are the all-star singers that are hand selected from their individual high schools across Westmoreland County. And they're put together only once for this opportunity to sing together and to perform as the All-Star Choir at this holiday program. We also have Andrew Turner, who's a wonderful young tenor who is part of the Pittsburgh Opera's Resident Artist Program. I don't know if everybody knows, but the Pittsburgh Opera fields a resident artist program of really the finest young artists, opera singers, who are right on their way to developing their professional careers. So in many cases, they've just graduated from a really fine conservatory, and they're looking for that opportunity to get the training and the next step that they need to launch into the world of a performing opera star. And that's precisely where Andrew is. He has a brilliant voice, a beautiful stage presence. And both Andy and I thought, oh, we have to see if we can get Andrew for this concert, because he would be perfect for it. So he's going to be singing some music from Messiah. He'll also be singing some standard Christmas classics. It's really a variety show, as Andy intimated. We want to keep it as beautiful, but as varied as we can. But of course, also have those elements that everybody expects every year, whether it's a sing along or it's the whip crack from Anderson's Sleigh Ride. There are just certain elements to this concert that we love, and we love to incorporate every year.
So Andy, tell us about COVID-19, and what was their creativity in trying to continue to reach your audience, and boy, I bet you're glad to be back now.
I mean, if you're referring to Plan Q for the year, maybe some creativity there. No, we are very blessed as a symphony to have had a community that embraced live music throughout the past number of months, and have really resoundingly said, we want this. This is still extremely relevant in our life. And we've taken the attitude of, how do we present someone a moment of calm, a moment of joy, a moment of escape, like Daniel was saying, throughout all of the past many months, and really take that attitude and magnify that, and to be able to use technology, when we weren't able to gather together, and really double down on that, and we've all become a mini production house, at the symphony that we can do those live stream concerts and whatnot, and go out into different communities. And because of those strategic investments, we were able to reach upwards of 200,000 area households last year because of that technology, because of just that the willingness to reinvent and to rethink and to move forward. And we are, as you said, Jennifer, we are so grateful to be back in person, but to still use that technology and have hybrid concerts, so that if someone's maybe not quite there yet, they can still watch online. But if you're watching online, you're getting concert in a concert, really, because that has also been curated the whole way down through, that you're getting, 6 different camera angles and whatnot. It's not just one static shot of the front. So it's really, just as much as Daniel's up there, conducting the orchestra and keeping the concert going, there's members of staff, including myself, who are in the back room wildly running through cue sheets and calling numbers and getting camera angles and all that. So really has been amazing, because of that community support to combine all of that, to know that ultimately it's all for the love of music to bring to our neighbors. And this has been very humbling to do so.
One more question for you. I wanted folks at home to understand how they can support the Westmoreland Symphony Orchestra, because I believe there are different pledge levels, there are different membership levels. Could you talk about that and where you could find that information?
Surely, we are always very happy and appreciative of anyone who decides to take their valuable dollars and support the symphony, through the gift of music, quite frankly. As a member of the symphony, for as little as $50, we're more than happy to include you, and that gets you a whole variety of subscription benefits. That's what word I'm searching for, and it really gets you extra content like backstage interviews with Daniel and guest artists. Sometimes we're able to gather together, have different smaller events strictly for those folks. So really, it's super easy to do. Just again, go to our website, www.westmorelandsymphony.org. No, there's way too many W's in there, but it's just really an easy thing to do, and it's an impact that you can make today, to know that you're impacting a lot of your neighbors' lives around you.
That's fantastic information to have. And Daniel, you are such a draw, but I know that you also appreciate everybody who becomes a member and who attends all of these.
That's the whole point, is that we try to come up with multiple contact points with the people that love music and love us. So whether it's somebody that comes to our home for the holidays concert, whether it's someone who attends the live Nutcracker, the only live Nutcracker really in southwestern Pennsylvania, that we mount every year, whether it's our signature symphonic season, where we're spreading 4 concerts over the year, whether it's our summer concerts where we're playing out on the green, at Robert Shaw Amphitheater, or we're playing in one of the other beautiful communities in and around Westmoreland County. We look for different ways to connect with the residents of Westmoreland County and to make music a part of their lives. And of course, I should also mention our incredible music school and our educational opportunities that we provide through the Westmoreland Symphony. There are just so many different ways that we are attempting and succeeding in connecting with people and connecting great music with people.
I did. I saw something at that the symphony is participating in later in December. I believe it's at historic Hannistown, where you're going to, people there. And I thought, wow, they really work hard to get out there. And that's excellent community outreach to draw people in, for sure. And that Palace Theater, Daniel, how beautiful.
We're lucky, because if you think about it, a lot of the houses or a lot of the halls where symphonies perform, at least in the United States, were not intended to be such. They were movie houses, or they were vaudeville houses, or they were purposed for some other reason. And perhaps maybe they didn't ever conceive of a symphony orchestra being housed there. But we're lucky, because the Palace Theater is beautiful. The acoustics are great. The stage setup actually works quite well for us for a mid to mid smallish orchestra. So we're thrilled. Sometimes when we mount a huge choral piece, we have to build out into the house a little bit. We actually enlarge the size of the stage, but that just adds to the excitement of the opportunity. And you know that you're getting to see the Verdi Requiem or some major, like Carmina Burana for the first time in the Palace Theater, and that it's special. And we're grateful, because it's such a gem. We could have lost this this performing space, but some very smart and some very forward-thinking residents of the county decided to step in and help rescue the palace. And now we're all the richer for it because we have this acoustical gem, this architectural gem, and really a beautifully historical space in which to perform.
So does that mean Greensburg's your favorite? I think that's what you're getting at. I think.
I think, look, every new musician that joins the orchestra and plays with us always comments on the acoustics. Even the guest soloists that I bring in from all over the US, they say, you know what, this is really a beautiful space. You guys are so lucky to have this. And it just reminds me, yes, we have a gem here in Greensburg, and it's something to really take care of.
Oh, that was such a good politically correct answer. I loved it. I loved it.
And I'll be running for mayor next year.
That's fantastic. So, Andy, one more time, why don't you go over the details for people who are just joining us on Westmoreland Community Connections here on WHJB. Westmoreland Symphony Orchestra has a nice program coming up on December 18th.
Yes, we're very lucky to have Home for the Holidays again this December 18th. 7:30 at the Palace Theater. All of your favorites that you remember from growing up, in this concert. Some great opportunities with the all-star choir from around the region. And as Daniel was saying, Andrew Turner from the Pittsburgh Opera is one of the resident artists, fantastic artist. Tickets are available at our website at www.westmorelandsymphony.org, or you can always give us a call at the office at 724-837-1850.
Daniel, just some final thoughts from you before we close out the show today, encouraging people to, give this a try and bring people to the symphony. I think they would be very, very impressed by what they see.
Well, you have to know that we are very enthusiastically embracing live audiences again. We want to welcome people back into the Palace Theater. This is something to celebrate. This is an opportunity to hear live music. And let me also mention the musicians of the Westmoreland Symphony are some of the finest musicians in our region. These are freelance musicians that are also playing in the Wheeling Symphony, or also playing for the Pittsburgh Opera or the Pittsburgh Ballet or the Erie Philharmonic, or the West Virginia Symphony. They're all really talented musicians who have won a competitive audition to even get that seat on the stage. So we're trying to assemble, and in many cases are doing a great job of creating an ensemble that's really wonderful. It plays impeccably well, and it's just, I'm humbled to be the steward of this beautiful ensemble. I'm humbled to be able to stand in front of all these great artists and to work with some of these high school vocalists for the very first time. It's a thrill, and they get to perform with the symphony orchestra for the first time. I mean, just imagine what that must be like to hear that sound coming at you and to be able to sing with that orchestra at the same time. It's a thrill, and it reminds me of that fact each and every new Christmas concert that we perform.
It was such a joy to talk to you. I am so thankful that both of you agreed to jump on today and talk to our audience. And, again, I think they heard that Greensburg was your favorite. So we're just going to go with that. Daniel Myers and Endicott Reindel, the executive director of the Westmoreland Symphony, along with the artistic director, the conductor. You see them everywhere. They're out in the community. Please consider visiting the website and learning more about Home for the Holidays on Saturday, December 18th. Thanks for listening to Westmoreland Community Connections on WHJB. I'm your host, Jennifer Mealing. Woohoo, 27:58, not bad.
Beautiful.
Okay, thank you guys. Now, the last thing I need, Daniel, if you could just say your name and position with the Symphony Orchestra. All week long now, they'll start running commercials that'll say that you're going to be on this weekend. And so they just kind of plug in your name, your title, and the orchestra. So go ahead.
Sure. Daniel Meyer, Artistic Director of the Westmoreland Symphony Orchestra.
Perfect. Okay, I got it. Gentlemen, thank you. That's all I need. So, Andy, I would tell you, please keep my contact information. I have to do one of these every weekend, 52 weekends a year. So, if you could remember me in 3 or 4 months,
Sure.
Jen, we have something going on. We can add it to the complement of things. And as you see, we can do it all via Zoom. So you don't have, it's not hard.
Surely.
Okay. All right. Wonderful. Please keep in touch. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.